The auctioneer had already lowered the price twice when Lena Brooks raised her hand. For 3 seconds, nobody in the room moved. Then a man in the back laughed so hard he coughed into his sleeve. The property was an abandoned poultry farm in South Georgia. 42 acres of cracked red dirt, 6 collapsing chicken houses, 2 rusted feed silos, and a waste pit that had not been cleaned out in years. Even from the county courthouse, people said you could smell it when the wind came out of the east. Lena paid $18,700 in back taxes and fees. It was almost every dollar she had. When she signed the papers, the clerk looked at her and said, "You know there aren't any chickens left out there, right?" Lena folded the deed, slid it into her coat pocket, and said, "I'm not buying the chickens." By sundown, half the county had heard that Ray Brooks's girl had bought the old Barlow place. By the next morning, people were calling it a roofed-over dump. By the end of the week, someone had nailed a hand-painted sign to the roadside fence. "Welcome to Lena's landfill." She left it there. Because what the county saw as rot, Lena saw as inventory. And what looked like a dead farm was sitting in the middle of 3 businesses that threw away exactly what she needed. 2 years earlier, Lena had been working the night shift at a peach packing plant outside Macon. Her job was simple. Good fruit went down one line. Bruised, split, overripe, or undersized fruit went down another. The good peaches went into boxes. The bad peaches went into trailers. Every night, those trailers filled with fruit that was still sweet, still soft, and still full of nutrients. It just could not survive a grocery shelf. Lena watched truck after truck haul it away. At the same time, her father was managing a small chicken farm 30 miles south. Feed prices kept climbing. Fertilizer prices kept climbing. Disposal fees kept climbing. The chickens ate expensive protein. The fields needed expensive nutrients. And businesses all over the county were paying to get rid of food that still contained both. Lena could not stop thinking about that. Her father used to tell her that farms did not usually go broke because they could not grow anything. They went broke because too many useful things left the farm, and too many expensive things had to be brought back in. Then he died of a heart attack beside a feed bin on a hot July morning. The farm he managed belonged to someone else. The house went with the job. Within a month, Lena had lost her father, her home, and the only place she had ever expected to stay. For a while, she worked double shifts and slept on her cousin's couch. Then one afternoon, she drove to a free workshop at a county extension office because the flyer mentioned low-cost protein for poultry. There were 12 people in the room. 11 left before the last speaker. The last speaker was a retired entomology professor named Dr. Walter Hale. He was 73, wore suspenders over a faded blue shirt, and carried a clear plastic tub full of fat, pale larvae. He set the tub on the table and said, "These little things can eat what you're paying to throw away." Lena stayed. The insects were black soldier flies. The adults did not bite. The larvae fed on organic material, grew fast, and could be harvested as a high-protein feed ingredient. What remained after feeding could be composted and used to improve soil. Dr. Hale did not call it a miracle. He called it a system. Waste came in. Larvae and soil material came out. Lena asked him how much it cost to start. He said that depends on how much you're willing to build yourself. She asked how much waste the larvae could handle. He said, "More than most people believe, less than most salesmen promise." She asked whether it smelled. He looked at her over his glasses. "Everything smells when you run it badly." That was the first honest answer she had heard all day. For 6 months, Lena visited Dr. Hale every Sunday. He showed her how moisture could ruin a bin, how heat could kill a colony, how one load of spoiled produce behaved differently from another, and why a system that looked simple from 10 feet away demanded discipline up close. She learned that the larvae did not erase waste, they changed it. She learned that balance mattered more than volume. She learned that the real business was not raising insects. It was controlling a flow of material that everybody else had stopped seeing as useful. Then the old Barlow poultry farm came up for tax sale. The farm was ugly, but it had three things Lena could never have afforded to build from scratch: covered space, concrete floors, and road access for delivery trucks. It also had something buried in the county paperwork that almost nobody noticed. The property had an old agricultural byproduct handling permit attached to its previous poultry operation. The permit was narrow, outdated, and full of conditions, but it meant the site could legally receive certain farm and food processing byproducts while Lena applied for updated approval. That little piece of paper was worth more than the buildings. So she bought the place. On her first morning there, Lena opened the nearest chicken house and nearly backed out again. The floor was layered with old litter, broken insulation, dead wiring, and dust so thick it moved when she breathed. The roof leaked in 6 places. Rats had chewed through the walls. A black snake had taken over the office. She gave the snake the office. She took the feed room. For 3 weeks, she cleaned with a shovel, a wheelbarrow, and a mask that left deep lines across her face. She patched one roof section with used metal panels. She built waist-high bins from salvaged lumber and lined them with heavy plastic. She bought starter larvae from a breeder in Florida and picked up her first load of discarded peaches in the bed of a borrowed truck. That first batch failed in 4 days. She made the mixture too wet. It turned sour, heated up, and killed almost everything in the bin. The smell reached the road. Someone added a second line to the sign: "Welcome to Lena's landfill. Told you so." She left that there too. Her second batch dried out. Her third attracted the wrong flies. Her fourth survived, but the larvae grew slowly because she had packed the material too deep. By October, Lena had spent most of her remaining money and had almost nothing to show for it except a notebook full of temperatures, moisture readings, feeding ratios, and mistakes. Dr. Hale came by one evening and found her sitting on an overturned bucket in the dark. "You quitting?" he asked. "I'm calculating." That usually means quitting with extra steps. She told him she had enough cash for maybe 6 more weeks. He walked the length of the chicken house, looked into every bin, and stopped at the smallest one. "What did you do here?" "That one's half peach waste, half brewery grain. Thin layer, more airflow." He dug into the surface with a gloved hand. The bin moved. Not the whole bin, the surface. Thousands of larvae rolled under the material like pale water. Dr. Hale smiled. "Then stop staring at the 4 ways it failed," he said. "Build the 5th way bigger." The next morning, Lena drove to a small brewery in town and asked for the manager. The manager said they already paid someone to haul away the spent grain. Lena said, "How much?" He told her. She said, "I'll take half of it for half the price." He stared at her. "You want me to pay you for it?" "I want you to pay me less than you're paying now." That got his attention. The first brewery load changed everything. The grain absorbed the liquid from the peaches balanced the grain, the larvae grew faster, the bins smelled earthy instead of rotten. Lena built angled ramps that let mature larvae crawl out on their own and drop into collection buckets. The first time it worked, she stood alone in the chicken house and listened to the steady tap of larvae falling into plastic. It sounded like rain. She laughed so suddenly, it scared the snake in the office. Lena began with 12 hens in a fenced run behind the chicken house. She added harvested larvae in small amounts and tracked the feed carefully. She composted the leftover material before spreading it on a test plot where the soil had been hard and bare. That spring, millet came up thick on the treated ground. Nothing grew on the strip beside it. She did not need a laboratory to understand the difference. She could see it from the road. The brewery told a nearby grocery store. The grocery store told a produce distributor. The produce distributor told the peach plant where Lena used to work. By summer, trucks were arriving 3 mornings a week. One carried spent grain. One carried bruised peaches and melon rinds. One carried expired produce that had been removed from its packaging. Lena charged modest receiving fees, harvested larvae, sold composted soil material to 2 market gardeners, and used part of the insect crop for her growing flock. For the first time, the numbers did not merely slow her losses. They turned. The old Barlow place began making money from things other businesses had paid to bury. That was when Southern Disposal came to see her. The company owned the largest private landfill in the region. Its representative, Pierce Maddox, arrived in a white truck that was too clean for the road. He wore polished boots and brought a folder with Lena's name printed on the front. He said he admired what she had built. He said the company supported innovation. He said small operators like her often reached a point where growth became dangerous. Then he offered to buy the farm for 6 times what she had paid. Lena looked at the number twice. It was enough to buy a good house, clear every debt, and never sleep beside a snake again. Pierce leaned back in his chair. "You've already won," he said. "Most people never get the chance to walk away at the top." Lena asked why a landfill company wanted 6 broken chicken houses. He smiled. "We're looking at future transfer capacity. For food waste, for several material streams, you're losing tonnage." His smile stayed in place, but his eyes changed. He closed the folder. "We're offering you security." "No," Lena said. "You're offering me silence." Pierce stood. Before he left, he told her the county would soon be reviewing waste handling rules. He said new standards could be expensive. He said odor complaints could shut down a small facility overnight. He said regulators took insects very seriously. Then he drove away. A week later, Lena received notice of an inspection. 2 weeks after that, someone filed 3 odor complaints on the same day. All 3 came from addresses more than 5 miles away. Lena tightened every procedure. She covered delivery loads, she logged temperatures, she installed screens, drainage, and washable surfaces. She hired a local teenager named Marcus Reed to help clean bins and record weights. Marcus's family raised broilers under contract. Feed and energy costs had pushed them close to losing the farm. He was 16, quiet, and better with machines than Lena was. Within a month, he had rebuilt one of her broken conveyors using parts from a peanut sheller. Within 2, he knew every bin by smell. By the end of the year, the operation was cleaner than it had ever been. Then the heat came. It started in May and did not let up. Day after day, the temperature climbed above 100. Peach losses surged. Grocery stores threw out more produce because trucks and coolers could not keep up. Poultry farms ran fans around the clock. Feed prices jumped after crop failures farther west. At the same time, Southern Disposal announced temporary limits on organic loads. The landfill blamed equipment problems and heat-related safety conditions. By July, food processors had nowhere to send thousands of pounds of waste. Small farms had nowhere to find affordable protein. Lena had both a crisis and an opportunity sitting at her gate. She could have tripled her receiving fees. She could have doubled the price of larvae. Pierce Maddox called and told her this was the moment smart people got rich. "Everybody needs what you have," he said. "Make them pay for it." Instead, Lena called every small poultry farmer she knew. She offered larvae at cost to farms at risk of losing birds. She accepted produce waste from local businesses at the same rate as before. She posted her basic bin design, feeding ratios, and sanitation checklist online for free. Dr. Hale told her Southern Disposal would copy it. Then they'll have to admit it works, she said. Marcus's father came to the farm with an empty livestock trailer and left with enough feed material to help carry his flock through the worst month. The brewery sent workers to help unload. The peach plant loaned Lena 2 refrigerated trailers. A welder repaired her collection equipment without charging labor. People who had once slowed down to laugh at the landfill sign now slowed down to ask where they could help. By August, Lena's farm was handling more material than she had ever planned to accept. The 6 old chicken houses ran in stages: receiving, preparation, feeding, harvesting, composting, and storage. Nothing was perfect. Some batches still failed. Some loads still had to be rejected. But every day, tons of organic material stayed out of the landfill. And every day, local farms carried useful products back out. Then Pierce made his last move. Southern Disposal petitioned the county commission to suspend Lena's operation. The company claimed she was creating a public nuisance, breeding dangerous insects, and operating an unregulated waste facility under an invalid permit. The hearing was set for a Tuesday night in September. Pierce arrived with 2 attorneys, an environmental consultant, and a presentation full of close-up photographs of flies. Lena arrived with Dr. Hale, Marcus, 3 binders of records, and a shirt that still smelled faintly like brewery grain. The meeting room was packed. Pierce spoke first. He described risk. He described contamination. He described the danger of allowing experimental biological processing near farms and homes. Then his consultant showed a photograph of a common housefly on a pile of garbage. Dr. Hale leaned toward Lena and whispered, "Wrong fly." When it was Lena's turn, she did not give a speech. She gave numbers. She showed how much material had entered the farm. She showed how much had been diverted from disposal. She showed temperature logs, cleaning schedules, delivery records, and complaint reports. Then Dr. Hale explained, in plain language, the difference between black soldier flies and pest flies. Marcus demonstrated the self-harvesting bin he had rebuilt. The county inspector testified that Lena had corrected every issue found during inspection. Then the farmers stood up. Marcus's father said Lena had helped save his flock. The brewery manager said her operation had cut his disposal costs. The peach plant supervisor said Lena had accepted loads during the heat emergency when nobody else would. A market gardener held up 2 trays of soil. One was gray and hard, the other was dark and loose. "This one came from the ground before," she said. "This one came after." Finally, an elderly man from the back row walked to the microphone. His name was Calvin Rusk. He had painted the landfill sign. He admitted it in front of everybody. "I thought she was bringing trash into this county," he said. "Turns out the trash was already here. She's the one who figured out what to do with it." The room went quiet. Then the county clerk produced the permit records. Southern Disposal had argued that Lena's approval was invalid. It was not. The permit required renewal and updated operating conditions, but it remained tied to the property while the review was pending. More importantly, county emergency rules adopted during the heat crisis gave the commission authority to approve a pilot organics recovery program. The commission voted 4-1 against suspension. Then it voted unanimously to create the pilot program with Lena's farm as its first site. Pierce packed his files before the meeting ended. Outside, he stopped beside Lena under the yellow courthouse lights. "You could have sold," he said. "I know. You could have made more money this summer than you'll make in 5 years. Probably. Then why didn't you?" Lena looked across the parking lot at Marcus helping his father into their truck, at the brewery manager talking with the peach plant supervisor, at Dr. Hale arguing with a commissioner about the photograph of the wrong fly. "Because I didn't build this to become the next landfill," she said. By the following spring, 3 farms in neighboring counties had built small systems based on Lena's design. The old Barlow place became a training site for farmers, schools, and food businesses that wanted to handle organic leftovers differently. Lena added better drainage, sealed receiving bays, and a real office. The snake moved out on its own. She kept the sign by the road. She repainted it, but she did not erase the words, "Welcome to Lena's landfill." Underneath, she added one new line, "Nothing stays waste for long." Years later, when Dr. Hale was too old to walk the full length of the chicken houses, Lena drove him through in a small electric cart. At one end, a truck unloaded bruised peaches. Farther down, larvae moved through a fresh bin. In another building, finished compost cooled in long rows. Outside, chickens scratched through green pasture that had once been hard red clay. Dr. Hale watched quietly. Then he said, "You know, people still call them waste streams." Lena looked at the peaches coming off the truck. "They're only waste streams if you let them flow one way." That was the lesson the old farm taught everyone who came through its gate. Nature does not make waste. It makes leftovers. It makes food for something else. Waste begins when people stop looking before the cycle is finished. And sometimes the biggest opportunity in a whole county is not hidden underground, locked in a patent, or waiting in a bank. Sometimes it is sitting in a leaking trailer behind a grocery store. Sometimes it smells bad. Sometimes everyone laughs when you point at it. And sometimes all it needs is one stubborn person willing to ask a better question. Not, "How do we get rid of this?" but "What is this still good for?"